All right. So let's just go over this next step here, UX and flowcharts. So just some background information. We'll go through the presentation in just a minute, but you can download it by clicking this link. Okay. So there are a number of concepts that we're going to work with here. UX stands for user experience. And there's some related concepts that I just want you to be familiar with. So the first one, you'll hear this a lot, lots of writings called user-centered design. All right. Click to just a definition of it here, so you can take a look at that and read through all that. But they define it as an iterative design process in which designers focus on the users and their needs in each phase of the design process. And for designers, this may sound like a duh. How else could we do it, right? It's like, it seems very natural. User-centered design was not really created to help designers understand this. It was created for engineers, and engineers deal with things very differently. They normally create technical products by defining the features and capabilities that they think will be valuable, and then creating the most efficient solutions to deliver those features and capabilities. It's completely possible that at no point during that do they think about the users at all. So user-centered design was really created to make it very clear that the user is important and that how the user works with, interacts with, uses some object that has been created for them is important in whether it will be successful or a failure. So for graphic designers, for us, we're always communicating. We're always having to keep in mind how the user is going to access what we're creating. So we often have a leg up in this process. User experience design, right? Just I've linked to just a number of overviews that go through it, right? Just experiences everything. And again, read through those at your pleasure. Mental models, right? We all have a picture in our heads or an understanding in our minds about how something works, how something should work. And when we encounter some new situation, we rely on past models and apply them to the new situation. Now, this is something we can really take advantage of as designers, because users will automatically try to use your app using the expectations and experience that they have of other apps that are kind of like it or they think will work like it. So when you're designing your features, think about how other popular apps already work. All the standard features that, say, Android devices use or iOS devices, how lists are handled, how settings are managed. Lots and lots of apps all use the standard Apple user interface guidelines, because once someone has learned those, then when they come to your new app, they'll already know how to use a lot of the features. So be very judicious in thinking up new interface treatments or use user flows, but be very willing to take advantage of well-established patterns for common features. Okay. Flowcharts, and this is what we're going to talk about and just look at in a little bit more detail. The flowcharts are diagrams that are used to explain a process, right, that your apps enables users to accomplish. There's a whole bunch of different ones, right? They show structure, relationships, paths through how to accomplish tasks. And that'll be what our next step is about for this project. We're going to create 3 of them: an information architecture flowchart, a process flowchart, and then a journey map. Below here are references and links to a number of items that will help you understand more about what these items are and give some very specific suggestions on how to do them. Flowcharts are types of mental models, right? And they're the diagrams that are created in order for us to understand and see the structure and the layout that we're working with. So, a couple of definitions, an explanation of someone's thought process about how something works in the real world, representation, blah, blah. The second one, a mental model, is what the user believes about the system at hand. I thought this was very interesting, right? It's not actually how the system works or what the system is. It's what the user believes it's about, right? So when they look at what you've done and what you've presented to them as the designer, they're going to make assumptions. They're going to make interpretations. The goal for us is we want them to interpret the system the way we've designed it, the way we've intended it. If there's a mismatch between what they believe is going to happen and what actually happens, they'll be unhappy. Okay? So it's based on belief, not facts, right? It's a model of what the users know or think they know about a system. So the flowchart, just a type of diagram, represents a process, workflow, or algorithm that you can work your way through. Used to analyze, design, document, and manage a process. So here's a basic information architecture flowchart. I think this one is for an online store for auto parts. Yeah, that's what it looks like, right? So the top navigation, right, it gives a little label, sort of lays it out, the home page, the about us, the contact, share. And these are all main sections. When you're on the home page, they indicate that this information is on the home page somehow, right? So these are the main categories and more main navigation. So there's top navigation, main navigation, hoods, hood accessories, headers, controls, exhaust, and then each one of these, so we'll say hoods, for example, then has a product list. So you come into the hood section, there's a big list of all the type of hoods you can buy. Clicking on any one of them, right, gives us detail about the individual product, and we sort of put it in our shopping cart. So here's the product details, and then we can send, what's this one say? Special price. Oh, so this indicates that if you're a registered user, you get a special deal rather than just a public deal. And off you go to a new existing customer, right? You're doing your checkout. If you can sign in or register, right? If you're an existing customer, once you've done your sign in, then you kind of come back down to this billing section. If you're a new customer, you go right to filling out the initial customer information. Then you go to billing. Then you go to, what does it say? Continue order, something. Order receipt, and you pay it. So this gives us the broad overview, organizes all the content, all the features, and gives us a slight indication of how we would walk through the process. Now, process flowchart. Now, this is a different type of model, and what these really try to do is to try to uncover all of the decisions that a user would have to make in going through your app. And it's not specifically tied to any individual interfaces. Really, it's about, and we can sort of work through this. It's all about shipping, right? And let's just say, shows each step, goal, and option available, but not specific quotations or context. So you start the process, and they ask, is the order invoiced? Yes or no, right? And these lines, these words are important. If yes, then you create a sales credit, and they move on to, have the items been shipped in the order? Yes or no? If yes, have they been returned? No. Has the customer paid? Yes. Refund or credit? No. No, refund or credit. It'll be credit, and then they're done. So, right, we work through those decisions. Other paths could happen. Is the order invoiced? No, it's not. Have the items been shipped? No, they haven't. Has it been paid? No, it hasn't. Has the order been fulfilled? Yes, it has. Have the goods out, not been printed and picked or packed? No, delete the, blah, blah, blah. It sort of works through whatever the sequences are. And these shapes, right, this lozenge shape, this diamond shape, this rectangle, these are important in the diagram. The lines, right, showing the flow of the decision, the yes-no options help explain what would happen, right, what options they have. The decision always goes this way, it never goes back this way, right? The arrow doesn't point in both directions, it only points in one direction. So, and these kinds of process flowcharts can be used for any type of process. It doesn't have to be a digital product like an app. It could just be how phone calls need to be handled in an office. Right? The phone call comes in, they get asked a series of questions, what happens based on what the answers are. The phone gets routed to the appropriate office or the appropriate person, whatever it is needs to happen. So any process can work with this diagram. As a result, there's a whole library of writing and training and knowledge about these types of flowcharts. These shapes are standardized. There's a library of the shapes. When you're working on your process flowchart, try to use the correct shapes for your points, right? There's a few classic ones, but start, decision, contact, right? These are all really the basic ones. So, and I'll show some examples of that in just a minute. Okay, on to the next one. So the journey map. Now there are lots and lots of ways that journey maps can be drawn, right? So this is a very, very what's called high level, meaning it's conceptual, just a very, very big picture. Not really useful in designing the app, but good to understand what customer may be going through while they're working on your app, right? So this one shows there's 4 types. First step is user signs up. They all go through onboarding, right? And then after that process, first type just says, I'm not interested, and they abandon the thing. Customer 2 uses it, but only as a free user. Customer 3 uses it until they hit a premium feature, and then they upgrade. User goes through the onboarding, upgrades immediately, doesn't have to go through any of the free, and continues as a business user. So this type of journey map, right, you have all been through, I'm sure, right? If you signed up for Miro, right, you're customer 2, right? Some people may have tried Miro and then just, I'm not going to use this. Some people have been told by their boss, we're going to use this, and they just buy it and get going. Others try it out, and it gets to a point where it's like, I'm using this a lot. Okay, I'm gonna pay for it and move on. So, this may be an appropriate vision for your team, for your project. But again, I've linked to a whole bunch of resources that go through and have very different looking diagrams about what the journey map looks like. So our last one to talk about is called a user flowchart. And, this one is kind of a combination of wireframe storyboards and the information architecture. And what this really does is try to get a very specific level, like what elements are on the screen, what buttons have been clicked, when they're clicked, what happens. And often, they may need a little description to describe what's going on. But we should really be able to sort of see what features the app includes, what interactions lead to, and then all the relevant screens that we would need in order for each of the options to work out. Right? And then once you're at a point here, we can prototype this, right? We can turn this into a clickable project in IxD or Figma or InVision, and actually have somebody go through and click the buttons and get the feedback, see the items, and work their way through our app, right? So we're not doing that this time, but we will do that shortly in the future. So just wanted to introduce these. All right. So these resources go over the information architecture flowchart, right? So an overview, so we could just step through those. All So just an overview, beginner's guide. And then some specific information architectures for navigation models. So again, read through these, use them as you see fit to understand how to work on your information architecture flowchart. And on the, I've linked to a page that sort of explains what the basic shapes are. Right? So here are the 4 basics. Right? So your diagram should definitely use these 4, and then after that, if any of these other ones seem appropriate or useful, go ahead and use them as well. As long as you understand the basics, I'll be happy with that in your process diagram. Okay, and here are those resources. So here they are, right? So understanding what the journey map is. NNG, again, I've mentioned these guys before, but they're fantastically smart user experience consultants. So write up with how they handle journey mapping, right? When and how to create one, and then just a sort of a softer overview. And this one, yeah, right, here's the diagram that they use. And these can be really useful in helping to understand what your goals are for your user, where they're going to have pain points, and then how you're going to solve them. So reading through this, feel free to use this exact template for your journey map. I find them really effective. So, and again, they go through all the items, right? Here's what it looks like once it's filled out. Okay. All right. And again, you'll find that here is this one right here. All right. That's it for this one. Good luck. Email me or reach out if you have any questions.